Hey, what's going on? Luke here. For today's video, we're going to be talking about the fact that the Bulldogs have won their second game of the season. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't expect it to happen. Now, obviously, if you've watched my tips video, I predicted a Dragons win, but I said that this was a very winnable game for the Bulldogs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually picked up a victory. Just something about the Bulldogs and the Dragons. We always seem to trouble the Dragons, and we did more than just trouble the Dragons. It was actual domination. Right from the start, you can tell there was just a bit of intent with the Bulldogs side. Some intent that we haven't really seen too much in 2021. Obviously, there's been a few games. I mean, the Sharks game was a perfect example. Just one of those ones where they came out from the start and you could tell that the Bulldogs were on. Whereas most of the other games, you come out and they have a few glimpses, but they never really convert early points, and then all of a sudden the other team just takes over. This time we converted some early points. Well, actually, we didn't even really convert some early points. I mean, we got the 2 points at the start with the Averillo penalty goal, but then the Dragons hit back eventually, and then the sin binning happened, and then all of a sudden the sin binning happened, and it sort of just changed the game in a way. Dragons couldn't score, and the Bulldogs did, and I think that just really killed any sort of motivation or momentum the Dragons had, and I feel like at that point they were like, all right, we're probably not going to win this one. This isn't our night. We had a man advantage against the worst team in the comp, and we couldn't even score. In fact, we conceded. Now, the try that Averillo scored was absolutely fantastic. Straight past Jack de Belin. Couldn't have picked a better person. Straight past him. His second game back, he still looks rusty as I don't know how Jack de Belin's in that side, to be honest with you. But Averillo just picked him out straight through the line. Scores under the post. So at that point, he'd scored all 8 points. Opened the second half. He ends up scoring another try. It was Nick Meaney with a nice little offload. Averillo backing up. Throws the dummy. Dufty, I don't know what the hell Dufty's doing. Goes through, ends up scoring again. Kicks the goal. So at that point, literally, Averillo is killing the Dragons. And I think that was sort of the story of the game. Averillo they just had no answers for him. They really had no answers for him. And the Dragons were trying some stuff, but a lot of the times it was just hitting the ground or they're dropping the ball. They just couldn't really get anything going. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and say the Dragons played well and the Bulldogs were just that much, they were just that good. And the Dragons tried the hardest and they just couldn't stop the Bulldogs. It was nothing like that. Like, the Bulldogs, they played really, really good. For me, that was about an 8 out of 10 performance. There was a few little options on the last that, the halves weren't exactly fantastic in that regards, but they also did a lot of good things as well. I thought Averillo, that's his best game in the halves. We've seen him play some decent performances in like the center and wing position, but I haven't really seen too much in the halves. Apart from like every now and again, he will just do that little dummy and go through just like he did for this game. He did it against the Storm, I think I remember. I think he's done it a couple times, and he usually goes through when it's quite effective. But Brendan Wakeham, he's played a little bit of first grade now, and to be honest, I've never really seen anything. Through the juniors, apparently it was an absolute gun, but when he's been in first grade, I hadn't seen anything until this game. This is one of the first games I've seen Brendan Wakeham come in, and I thought he actually looked like a first grader. He put a nice little shot on Dufty. I thought his kicking game was pretty decent. Just in terms of the actual control of the game, I thought it was quite decent. And I think it was the main point of the Bulldogs. They actually had some control, and it looked like they actually had a plan, which is something they haven't had for a couple of years. Pretty much ever since Dean Pay came over, it felt like there was no game plan. They were just going out, and maybe there was a game plan, they just weren't executing. That's probably more what it comes down to, but it just felt like we're going watching a side that had no direction in attack, and the defense wasn't good enough as well. So therefore, they were getting absolutely towed up week after week. Whereas yesterday, it looked like they actually had some intent. They knew what they wanted to do. I thought Hetherington and Luke Thompson were massive. Luke Thompson in particular, every week he puts in. But Hetherington, it's so good to see another forward sort of helping out Thompson. And adding to that, Josh Jackson, I thought he was the best forward despite the sin binning. But you could just see the line speed. Even for what he got sent off for, sin bin I should say, even for what he got sin bin for, it was for being offside. So he was jumping and going in that regards, but he was getting up quick. And even if you watch the actual sin bin, you can see he gets up there, puts a nice shot on, and then he does get sin binned, which I thought was a little bit harsh. We've seen players get pinged for offside time after time, and with all the 6 again rules, it just feels like it's sort of willy-nilly. Sometimes they give it, sometimes they don't. But apparently they did pick out Josh Jackson and say, we've been getting you over and over again, don't do it again, and then he did it again straight away. So I understand it in that regards, but then the Dragons had a whole bunch of 6 again calls, I think, for offside, and no one got sin bin for that. So a little bit inconsistent in that regards, but obviously didn't really mean anything in the end. Bulldogs got the win, and in fact, in that time, the Bulldogs ended up sort of getting on the momentum and getting on the front foot, scoring a try, and just really killing off the Dragons' bull power, in my opinion. For the Dragons, though, like Corey Norman and Ben Hunt, they got to do so much better. And I suppose it doesn't help for Corey Norman the fact that he's being told that he's not going to be signed next year, or he's not going to be re-signed, I should say. And for the Dragons, like, you watch that game and you can understand why. Same with Matt Dufty. I've sort of been a big proponent to come out and say I don't know why Matt Duffy isn't being re-signed, and I still stand by that. I think the Dragons should re-sign him. However, like if he's asking for huge money, and he probably is. I mean, fullbacks seem to be getting big contracts these days, same with your halves and hookers and all that sort of stuff. But if he's asking for huge money, let him go. Like, he really doesn't offer that much. But if he's on like a decent little contract, I would keep him. At the same time, you got Cody Ramsey on the wing. You know, could be a good prospect. But look, Matt Duffy does have runs on the board. But for him to go to Raiders or whoever's going to sign him, the Broncos, I don't know if he offers much more than what you've already got. Say for the Broncos, for example, Asako, amazing with the ball. Defense is a problem. What do you got to say about Matt Duffy? Attack is fantastic. Defense is lacking. We saw him take a dummy from Averillo. Even the Jeremy Marshall-King try. I'll talk about Jeremy Marshall-King in a second, but he just took the dummy. Not even took the dummy. He just wasn't even looking. And it's just that stuff that I feel like you get drilled into you as a kid, even when you're playing, let alone being a first-grade footballer. So it's just, it baffled me what's Duffy doing in this game. Like, it seemed like he just really couldn't give a shit. And I don't know if the Dragons as a whole had that attitude, because I don't think they did as a whole. And I think even after halftime, I think they thought they could win it. And then all of a sudden the Bulldogs just put the foot down and then ran away. Then I think the early try to Averillo, that was the one that really killed it. In the first half, you had the man advantage, you couldn't score, Averillo scores. Then in the second half, you come out, you want a strong start, and what happens, Nick Meaney gets a nice offload away, and Averillo goes and scores under the post. And then all of a sudden, you're losing to the worst team in the comp. You've got players who are being told that to look elsewhere in Duffy and Corey Norman, both in key positions. You've also got guys like McCullough. I didn't think he played very well. Just the whole team in general obviously didn't play well. But yeah, the backs don't really offer too much. The forwards are kind of, they're average. Like, if someone has an amazing game, like if Duffy has a really good game, or Corey Norman or Ben Hunt, you can sort of get away with that. But the Bulldogs forward was more than matching it. They were absolutely bashing the Dragons forwards. The backs were also killing it too. So yeah, the Dragons really they didn't really have anything because none of their players stood up. And then for the Bulldogs, they didn't have anybody who was going to throw the game away, which is something that I think the Bulldogs tend to do. If you go back and watch a lot of the Bulldogs games, don't worry about the scoreline, but if you actually watch the games, I feel like you will notice a trend of the Bulldogs being in some pretty good positions, having even a pretty good scoreline, being like one try in it, and then in the end they sort of, they'll just concede one try in the last 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden that other team score a couple of tries. Even look at the Penrith game at halftime. This wasn't like the baby Penrith side that's been losing with all the Origin players out. This was the full-strength Penrith side, and at halftime, apart from a Watene Lasniak little shitty little offload, it was going to be a one-try ball game at halftime. This is last place up against first place. It was like the biggest odds pretty much of all time in terms of the NRL, and the Bulldogs are really fighting, they're really competing. So I feel like at this point in the season, I think the Bulldogs are starting to find something. It's taken a lot longer than what I thought it would, but I'm finally seeing some positive signs for the Bulldogs, because at the start of the season, we're looking at them in attack, and they just had no idea. The defense wasn't great. Like, Kyle Flanagan wasn't great. They couldn't figure out their combinations. Corey Allen wasn't really going well at fullback. We've still got a lot of good players to come back into the side as well for the Bulldogs as well. I think Fatala Mariner's out for the season. He played one game. Corey Allen's to come back into the side. You think of next year as well, of all the signings, I think there's definitely some positive signs for the Bulldogs. And I feel like the guys who are putting in, like Dylan Napa, someone who I've shit on him for so long, I feel like he's actually been pretty good this year. But yeah, like I said, Hetherington in the side was huge. Thompson was huge, and most importantly, I think Josh Jackson was incredible. Definitely a captain's knock there. Just in the middle, I know there's a few question marks of him playing the lock position by some Bulldogs fans, but I do think that is his best position. Adam Elliott on the edge, I'm still not sold on, but Matt Doorey, I really like him, and I do rate him. I think he's only like 19 or 22, so yeah, he is super young, and he obviously got to go last year. He's finally made his way into the starting side this year. I was surprised it took this long too, because I thought he would have went straight in. Instead, we had guys like Waddell and Stimson, all those sort of guys starting in the side, and it didn't make sense to me then, doesn't make sense to me now, and I think Doorey showing why he should have been picked. But overall, I thought the Bulldogs, fantastic performance. Obviously, I don't want to take anything away from the Bulldogs, but at the same time, I think we do have to acknowledge that the Dragons definitely were off the pace, but at the same time, the Bulldogs put a lot of pressure on them, hitting them hard, and obviously, like, they're getting repeat sets. I thought they had a great game plan. I think what's really helping the Bulldogs at the moment is they're just really slowing down the game. I know at the moment, the NRL's trying to fast-pace everything. They're trying to speed it up week after week. They're making different rules week after week on the fly to try and stop things. Next they're going to be doing is, I don't know, something where you can't kick the ball over the sideline, because the Bulldogs are doing it and it's working really well for them. Slowing the game down. They did it against Penrith, did it against the Dragons, and it worked fantastically. But next week will be a huge challenge for them. Got the Eels. I think it's going to be, well, it could be a bloodbath with the Eels. It definitely could be a flogging for the Eels. But this is the sort of game the Eels sort of tend to struggle with too. I know in the past, Bulldogs have beat the Eels and at least troubled them. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm not really expecting too much from the Bulldogs. But look, I'm just glad that we got our second win of the season. Putting pressure on the Broncos now as well. I think even for and against might be super close. I know they're still last, I think, but I think for and against, there's only like a couple points in it. So, look, every win definitely helps. And if Bulldogs can get a win next week, that would be fantastic. Don't see it happening, but hey, I'm just going to enjoy this week while I can. Anyways, that's where I'm going to end this video. If you happen to enjoy the video, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Turn on the notification bell. It's super important in terms of you actually seeing these videos. Been producing a lot of content as of late, so don't miss any of my videos. Use the notification bell, get a little notification on your phone or whatever device you're going to use. Click on it, leave a like, leave a first comment, do whatever you want to do. Also, while you're doing that, may as well leave a comment as well. Let me know, what are your thoughts of the Bulldogs win? Did you enjoy it? Did you expect it? I feel like a lot of people actually would have expected this performance. So, yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Also, give me a follow on social media. Maybe let me know there. But it's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. Mr. Luke just a Facebook. But for everything else, it's Mr. Luke and YT. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end this video. Stay tuned for more content on the channel. I'll see you in the next video. Guys, go the Bulldogs!